Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Jody. This is Russ Lover's Garage, and what I'm doing today is we're going to talk about my 69 F100. Many of the folks on Facebook and the various groups that I'm in have asked questions about it, so we are officially kicking off the car show season. This past Friday, we went to our first cruise in up in Valdez, North Carolina at Myra's. If you're in the area, it's certainly worth checking out. They do that every Friday night. But more importantly, as I'm shooting this video right now, we're getting ready for basically the icebreaker. Run to the Sun at Myrtle Beach is this coming week. We're going to go down a few days early and get ready for that. But a lot of folks have asked me about my 69, and I want to go through for a couple different things. This truck's been in my family since day one, since it was new. My father bought it in 69. It's been a farm truck, a daily driver. This particular truck has been to every NASCAR track east of the Mississippi, with the exception of Pocono and Dover. It's never made it up there. The last race that it went to was North Wilkesboro, when NASCAR last ran up there in 1996. Go back and you'll see a previous video. We went back up last October, a year ago, to Cars and Jars. It's a car show and cruise in that they have up there. That's the first time since 96 that this truck had been to that track. So I've logged a lot of miles. We're going to walk around and just kind of look at it and talk about it. Again, it's a very special truck to me and to my family. And let me show you this real quick. This is a book that I've kept up with. It kind of tells a story of the car, but I've got every piece of paper that my dad signed, insurance, title, the loan. This truck sold new for $2,003. Yeah, 2301. There it is. I'll get it out in just a second. But 2301 is what this truck sold for new. It was a base model F100. The only options that he got with this truck was the hubcaps that you see here. It had the West Coast mirrors, which I'm kind of back and forth about putting back on the truck. You guys give me some comments, yes or no. I put these smaller mirrors on there, but I do have the West Coast up in the building. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I like both ones, so you guys kind of help me make my mind up there. And he did get it with an AM radio, which has since been replaced by an aftermarket retro, and I put a system and all in it so you can ride down the road and hear. But one other thing, if you ever see me at a car show and you walk up and see the truck, I always display this picture. This is a picture of my dad and Lee Hallman. They knew each other from the dirt track days back in the beginning, and obviously Lee Hallman is Ray Hallman's son of the famed Hallman and Moody. This is Curtis Turner's car, and two things. These two old warbirds were friends, but more importantly, this was one of the last trips that I took my dad on before his health started to fail, and he wanted to go there and a couple other places. Maybe we'll get around to talking about them later on. But I wanted to show you those two things. Again, it's a 69. It's got its battle scars. Some of the modifications that I have done in the front end here, I've put a set of progressive rate springs, 1992 Ford Explorer. I've cut one coil out of those. I cannot take credit for that. Craig with F100 World did this to his, I think it's a 72 that he's got. But anyway, he showed everyone how to do that, so I shamelessly copied it, and it worked very well. The only thing that I did beyond that is I do have a sway bar, front and back, that we bought, aftermarket sway bar, which helps this thing stay in the road a lot better without it, because these old beam trucks, they like to get into a corner and hunt a ditch to get in. But that's the only thing that we've done there in the back. The only thing suspension-wise back here we've done is I did take one leaf out of the leaf spring setup, and that did allow it to settle down quite a bit. These are the original springs, and if it weren't for the fact that this truck was worked to death, and we'll talk about the engine and stuff in just a little bit, if it wasn't for the fact that this truck was worked to death, these springs would have quite a bit more arc to them because they are flattened out. My dad traveled installing textile machineries in the 70s and 80s all up and down the East Coast in this truck, so there's a lot of toolboxes and stuff being hauled, so the springs got flattened out. They still ride good and they do what they needed to, and my point by saying all this is I only had to take one spring out of it, or one leaf, to get it to settle down like you needed to. One thing about the rear tires and rear wheels on this thing, NASCAR guys, the dirt track guys, are throughout the beginning of NASCAR in the Ford, I think 49, 50. They were known for innovation. They were known figuring, if you don't have it, figure it out. If you need it and you don't have it and you can't afford it, make it. My dad, obviously, as I've mentioned many times, worked around a lot of the dirt track drivers and teams around in this area during the late 60s, early 70s. He had a friend that worked at a place in Spartanburg, South Carolina. It was Spartanburg Wheel and Rim. My dad wanted bigger tires to go on the back of this truck. Okay, drag racing was really coming around. He liked that look, and the only thing that you could get for these trucks back then was a 7 or 8 inch wheel. Now, I've got offset wheels that come off of a Ford LTD Elite in the front that I'm running a 60 series tire on. These wheels right here started out as the original Ford 8 inch wheels. If you'll look, I've got 295/50 R15s on the back of this thing. It's a pretty good sized tire. What happened, my dad got up with his buddy down there at Spartanburg Wheel and Rim. They made an adapter to where they could chuck up 2 of these wheels in a 48 inch turret head lathe, turn it real slow. They wound up cutting the bands and adding enough to make these wheels, I think it's 10.5 inches wide. So I could put a lot bigger wheel on here and it would still take it and keep it tucked up underneath the fender well and not get into the frame. And I think next time around it's probably what I'm going to do. But again, that just shows ingenuity. Now you can buy factory made wheels, any kind of offset you want. Back then you were kind of limited unless you were stepping up into the drag racing realm and getting the true quote-unquote magnesium wheels. You could get different offsets there, or if you were willing to wait for them to make a custom offset for you, you could get that. But nonetheless, this right here was done with 2 guys with an idea, a little bit of time on their hands, and a little bit of ingenuity. We got 10.5 inch steel wheels on the back of this thing that from a distance and from the side, they look like they're factory. The fuel tank in the cab, I took it out. It was old. We've got an old aluminum spun aluminum tank for dune buggies sitting back here. We're getting by with that right now, but that's going to be one of the modifications that we do. This rear bumper it's kind of a funny story. Yes, it's a step bumper, big old heavy thing, but my dad had a friend of his that was a school teacher in a neighboring school, auto mechanics teacher, and he had a student that was a great mechanic and a great fabricator, but the rascal never would show up for class. So this particular teacher said, look, you have got to build something. It's got to be right and it's got to be good in order to pass the class. And the guy had to have it, this particular class, to get enough credits to graduate high school. So he came up with this bumper, and he built this bumper for my dad's friend, and his name, oddly enough, was Joe, for his truck. And somehow or other there was a trade made. My dad wound up with it. This thing's been on the truck since probably the mid-80s. Just a handmade. And back then, I don't think that they used a plasma or laser, so the old boy did a very good job fabricating this thing. And this was, like I said, this was made in a high school fab shop. This toolbox that's on the truck's been on here, I bet you there's 250,000 miles in this toolbox. It's been on there for a very long time. Let me draw your attention to the spoiler that I have on the front and the chin spoiler, on the back, and the chin spoiler I have on the front. Steve Howell down in Greenville, South Carolina. You can look him up, or you can see a previous video I did. Ugly Ass Spoilers is the name of his company. He makes these things. If you guys are going to be at either one of the F100 shows in Pigeon Forge, he'll be up there selling these things. Great product, great guy to deal with. He does this out of his shop at his home, so look into that if you're into the market for picking something like that up. Again, the interior, basically stock, with the exception of the updated radio, which it looks stock. And of course, I've had Lee Hallman sign the glove box for the truck, and you see our F100 World stickers there. Hadn't done any major modifications other than just gauges. Of course, we added power steering. This thing had the wagon wheel steering wheel on it at one point in time, and we put power steering on it, and also the headliner. I'm not sure how well the camera's going to pick that up, but that is a rustic American flag that is waving. I had one of my guys here locally that does wraps. I took it to him and I said, this is what I want. I don't know what it's going to look like, but anyway, make it happen. And that's what he did, and it turned out very well. Alrighty. In 1969, they came out with a couple, three engine combinations for this thing. You had a 260 6-cylinder, a 300, and then I think you could actually get a 289 or 302, I don't know. But anyway, this thing came out with a 260. Running around, it was fine, but if you got much of a load in this thing at all, it wouldn't pull a hat off your head. So we basically ran that motor into the ground. One of the local junkyards here, Dad had them drop a 302 in it. That went for a while. Now we've got a little hopped up 302 that was built by one of my closest friends and about like my older brother. He built this thing to go in a 72 Mach 1, and it never made it in there. It wound up going into this truck, and I don't know what kind of trading went on there, but this motor, it does a real good job snatching this truck up and down the road. If you'll notice my front panels here, and we'll be adding some more, but this right here is Fit Fab. Need to look up James Mitchell if you're looking for panels like this. He's the owner. He and his wife, they're at all the Ford shows. James is a great guy to deal with and has got an imagination that's unreal. Just take a look at his stuff online. Again, it's Fit Fab in Drake, Kentucky. They also will be at the shows in Pigeon Forge, and I know James travels around all over the place. I've got an interview that I did with him a year ago at the F100 Super Nats, and of course this coming May we'll be back up there talking to him. And I don't intend on taking this truck up in May, but it will be there for September show. And one of the reasons I want to do this show, or do this video, and show you guys this. There's a tremendous amount of work about to happen to this truck. We're going to go in, basically take it apart. It won't be a nut and bolt restoration, but there's just a tremendous amount of cleanup and detailing and things that I want to get done to make it a little bit better driver, make it a little bit better looking truck, although we're going to leave the patina on the outside because that's where the truck gets its character. But again, these panels are Fit Fab. We'll wind up putting in a panel here, and we're going to build somewhat of a tonneau cover for the bed. James has already agreed to make me a panel there, so I just got to get him some dimensions. Again, everything else is stock. Again, ugly ass spoilers. Steve Howell in Greenville, South Carolina. We have added two things that besides going from a 6-cylinder to a V8, I've got the Classic Performance Products power brakes set up. I've got to redo the lines because we just barely did get done with this in time to go September show. This is something we'll be cleaning up. Absolutely great product, guys. Absolutely great product. Not only did we put the master cylinder and booster setup on here, but I've also got their front brake conversion. It could not have been easier. It was plug and play. We came in, we take the old spindles and everything out, throw them away. This thing came as a complete assembled unit. We bolted it up. We took it down to Wink's front end shop. I did a video there with Scotty that shows how he goes about bending these beams and lining these trucks up, so you need to look at that. But again, the Classic Performance did a great job with their product. It was so simple to put in. We've had the radiator rebuilt. This is the old copper bronze or copper brass combination radiator. This thing is so heavy it about cut my head off when I took it off, because I took it out from the bottom and was not expecting it to be so heavy. But nonetheless, it's the old school radiator, does an outstanding job. And of course we put electric fans behind that, but still got the old bottle jack in here. I've got the handle behind the seat. Don't ever use it, but don't want to use it. But anyway, we've tried to keep as much of the stock stuff as we can. But again, it's old Granny's getting ready to get a going through. But that's a quick walkthrough of my 69. Guys, I appreciate you spending time on the channel. Again, we're headed to Run to the Sun, so any guys out there that's headed down that way, we'll be walking around, probably doing some videos. We're not going to take a truck or car down this time. Of course, we'll May, the F100, I think they call it the Grand Nationals, and then September's the Super Nats, and we'll certainly be up there for that. But I appreciate the time you guys spend with my channel. I hope everybody is smiling, because car show and car cruise-in season is here. The weather's getting warmer, and I'm happy about that. I really am. So again, guys, thanks for spending time with me, and as always, God bless.